Thank you. Thank you. Calm down, everybody. Calm down, everybody. All right. Here we are. We're starting. We're doing a little bit of thing from my friend Mango. Went through a breakup, and that shit hurts. I want to talk about it a little bit. I actually did a deep dive. You know, let's cut back the music. That's just really cool. It's kind of cool, isn't it? All right, so let's get into it. I actually have several of these that I've done on another channel, which I think I should just download and upload so I don't have to redo them. Kind of masterclass stuff. So, I mean, listen, I'm almost 60 years old. I've gone through a variety of relationships and things, and I've pretty much learned through failure. But I learned some things where I've actually brought in professional counselors, relationship counselors, got recommendations. In fact, one of the books I'm going to share with you, I think it cost me about $1,000. I got the book for free. Great deal. One of the best books ever. In fact, I usually carry 2 copies with me. I've literally read one of the chapters to friends over the phone. So your first 72 hours is the hardest. But then you need there's a roadmap that's available to you. And I want to talk about it a little bit. But first, let me introduce the book. Okay. We're going to cover a little bit about what's next steps. I'm going to give you some reference points. You can get the book as an audiobook or you can read it. The first chapter is probably the most important if you've had a breakup, probably within the last, 90 days. I teach something called a rule of 3. Pause 3 seconds, 3 minutes, 3 hours, 3 days, 3 months. Well, actually 3 weeks, 3 months, 3 quarters, 3 years, depending on the decision. For most serious relationship breakups, the decision-making matrix for me is 3 months. But it starts with that first 3 seconds when you are devastated. I actually experienced and deployed this, and I literally had a heart attack, which I got diagnosed later. Didn't know it at the time. I just was so stunned and I was so hurt that it drove me to my knees and I couldn't breathe. Rule of 3 kicked in for me. And I breathed and I waited, and then I waited 3 minutes, and then I kind of got perspective, and then I took some things out and buried some things and lit a candle over them. I created my own little ritual in the moment. And in this case, I decided to go to work because I didn't want to be alone with myself. So work was kind of like therapy, but I was what began at that moment in time. The first month, I can't even tell you. I got a room with an ex, shared a room with my son, and I basically put on headphones and listened to like Celia Farron's Letting Go music and other things. Reached out, I found a book that really upset me. The title by Gabby Bernstein, Universe Has Got Your Back, caught my attention. I was filled with anger because no, it does not. And it was a good book. And I think I read her next one, May Cause Miracles, which I was unprepared for it to be kind of a workbook process. Anyway, the first month kind of came and went. I had set terms and standards for the relationship coming full circle. Gave it a 3-month timeline. First month was just survival. Second month, I started getting my footing, planning on what's next. Do I even want to do anything next? And then the third month, I actually moved on. And that was a little over 7 years ago. So it was an interesting process. Not the first time, but that was one of the most significant, oddly enough, situations where I was all in. Probably for the third time. No, yeah. Like how many times have you been all in, David? Yeah, more than one. Shame to say. Just didn't know what I didn't know. Tried everything: signs, spirituality, astrology, soothsaying, messages from the other side, all of it. The woo-woo stuff, the not so woo-woo stuff, just all of it. And learned some things. I learned that I was not qualified to find myself a partner. But I came up with a plan after identifying what the problem was. I mean, most of the people I dated or had a relationship, they were all quality people. Well, there were some that had their own issues, but everyone's got issues, right? So it's all about, it boiled down to two things for me: willingness and reciprocation. And I'm getting a little feedback here. I'm going to see if I can fix that. But if you don't have willingness and you're not getting the relationship reciprocated, it's pretty much over. You can hang out for years. You can be in an abusive domestic violence scenario, but if it's if you're not having reciprocation and willingness to change and grow, then you're it's not going anywhere, in my opinion. All right, so we're not going to get into all the details because we don't have time for it. But this particular episode is all about what to do, how to survive, and how to get back on your feet. And I'll towards the end, I'll talk about strategy a little bit that I found to be very successful after many fails. I always had no problem finding quality dates or people or anything like that. And that was before the swipe right, swipe left thing. But I just, a lot of folks, there's better strategies. And depending on your age, there's different goals and objectives. Like for me, I wanted to be in a relationship. I wasn't looking to lay any more pipe. If you don't know what that means, don't worry about it. But as an older person, you know, so like I'm 60, so 7 years ago, I was 53, right? Um, so I had to decide, do I want to even bother being in a relationship ever again? And the initial answer is no, hell no. Watching some of the things like Man Talk is like, oh yeah, who wants to be in a relationship after all that? Everyone, the women are like, oh, the bros are going after passport bros and AI and whatever. And it's like, yeah, probably a whole lot safer for a younger man to consider those sort of things. But it's a different conversation for men, women, different life stages in life. What are your objectives? It's complicated. And most of you, if you're a younger person listening to this, usually you probably haven't been exposed to anything other than how you were born and raised and what you observed in your family, which may or may not have been quality anything in terms of relationships and how they should function or don't function. A lot of times children are isolated and they're protected in ways for which they're then unprepared for the realities and rigors of actual life. I kind of launched in life thinking I knew everything. I miss those days. I just didn't take me long. It took me decades for me to figure out I didn't know everything. Kind of didn't the previous generation didn't really pass much along except for what not to do for me. So I'm always a little envious of people who had quality parenting and insights and proactive communications and transparent communications within the family as well as stuff. But anyway, so let's go into where to begin. One chapter will help you survive. Ready? Oh, it would help if I actually turned on the thing. Boom. Oh, I'm in the corner. I was wanting to go side by side. Oh, that's more interesting. There's more toys for me to play with. So this is the book called The Journey from Abandonment to Healing. It's also available as an audio. But let's go inside the book. Oh, here it is on Amazon. If you hate Amazon, it's everywhere. I'm not going to get into that conversation. But if we look inside the book, stage 1 called Shattering. This chapter will save people's lives. It'll also give you a roadmap so you understand the neurochemistry going on in your brain. You are addicted, and that neurochemical addiction is more painful and it's instantaneous than heroin withdrawal. Yeah, first 72 hours is brutal. It's instantaneous. It hits you like, yeah. So this chapter all by itself is worth whatever the cost of the book is. Yeah, you need to sooner, better. Gives you a roadmap. That first 72 hours is big, but then it cycles. You go through a cycle, and then there's withdrawal, internalizing the rejection, rage, lifting. It's a roadmap out of it. Now, one of the things I figured out later in life was I I know this is going to be like a revelation to some of you. I actually have value. I bring value to a relationship. I bring an enormous amount of value. And I've changed my view on relationships related to a lot of spiritual things that happened to me after Y2K. I viewed women differently, men differently, my relationships with men and women differently, just a whole lot of things, a conversation for another time, top of a book I'm writing. But in the absence of that information, what can you do? Well, if you've just gone through a breakup, you need time to heal. How long does it take to heal? 2 to 3 years. If you haven't had a 2 to 3 year get your shit together abstinence period in your life after figuring out you're no good at finding relationships for yourself, I'd highly recommend it. I did that, and I got my stuff squared away. There's a context I used. I will be the man. The woman of my dreams will identify as the man of hers. There's a whole story behind it. I'm not going to get into it, but I held that context, and I spent 2 to 3 years just not dating for fun or, I'd coffee, meet up type of things, but not dating, not holding hands, no kissing, none of that stuff. None of it. I needed to not be run by that part of my anatomy as a dude. Women, I don't know. I'm not a woman, so I can't speak for them. But I realized I needed to take a break, and I had kids and stuff, so it was in an amicable situation at the time, and I was figuring it out. And I spent a lot of time reading and researching and getting clear and figuring out who I wanted to be with, how I wanted to live my life, and who did I need to be in order for that dream woman, if you would, to even recognize me as being viable. See, I can't control finding her, but I can control being me. So I went to work on me, self-improvement. And I had that polarized with who I thought I would want in my life and things like that. So it was an interesting journey. A lot of folks shortcut it. They hop into another relationship. Why? They're feeding addiction. They move their addiction from one supplier of the addiction to a jump in another one. I suggest you stop it, wait it out. Don't hop into another relationship. If you ended a significant relationship, you need to heal. Now, the older you get and the more times you cycle through relationships and the clearer you are on relationships, it's easier to get back in the game hard and fast if you want to, if you have a strategy. So, like in my case, I spent 3 years getting very, very clear on myself and how I wanted to live my life. And when the next relationship showed up, I was head over heels into the relationship, and I was missing some warning signs. I was paying too much attention to quote unquote signs, which I don't recommend. They're cute, they're fun, they're interesting, but no. Um, and it was a very interesting experience where I learned all about domestic violence, abuse, level 10 stuff, going back. It was just, I learned a lot. It was like one of the most powerful learning experiences of my life. And it reciprocally was probably the most painful relationship ending of my life. And none of them they all feel like the most painful at the time. So, it was probably one of multiple ones. There's either slow agony or there's hard pain. This was like hard, fast pain. And, retrospectively, glad it happened. In the moment, yeah, it was hard. It always is. So I was already aware of this book. I already created my rule of 3 to follow. That got me through the first day, first 72 hours. I had lots to do. I had to figure out a place to live. I vowed never to see that person again, ever. And I had to do strategy. Like, what am I going to do next? What do I do with my clothes? How do I get my stuff? I've created these standards and rules for myself, 3 days, 3 weeks, all sorts of stuff. And there was almost a thing where there was a phone call and in a perfect timing scenario, but not the right context. And I, in tears, had to just say no. And every part of my fiber of my being wanted to go and see her and visit again. But I set terms and standards for myself for the first 24 hours on what things had to look like for me to even consider healing the relationship. And I stood firm on it. I'm glad that I did. Humans are very adaptable. And if I were to describe to you all the things that I had done to help and to be of service, I'm blown away when I review my notes from the era. It hurt. Shattering. Shattering isn't even the proper word for what I think I experienced. It was like a shattering followed by a grinding. It was horrible. Recommend that chapter highly. There is abandonment.net, which is the author's website. They got workshops, all sorts of cool stuff. This is all about you focusing on you, self-care, getting to a safe place. I can't speak to the other books. I imagine this first one is so good that it's just enough. I've read The Shattering to folks over the phone. Describes the neurochemical aspects, and it gives you a roadmap to what you're experiencing over time. A significant relationship like what I was, about 2 or 3 year cycle. It's taken longer. But because I had a plan, I had my rule of 3. I reached the 3-month thing. After the second month became very, very clear that things, let's go back to this, became very, very clear to me that the relationship was not going to move forward unless there was literally a divine intervention and miracle. And it almost happened. It almost happened. A lot of times it's not, you're not just losing a relationship. When you're older, you probably participate in extended family, your family, their family, kids, your step parent. So when a relationship ends, you're losing an entire family, not just the person. And I was in that situation. And yeah, if you got kids, it's even more complicated if you're dating. And you gotta be more careful, especially for a woman. And there's certain things you gotta be aware of if you're a man too. So that's another conversation for another time. It's a whole nother book. You will step into situations you are not mentally, emotionally prepared for. You are vulnerable in ways you do not understand, and there are long-term lifetime ramifications for how your honor can be destroyed by rumor and toxicology of a pissed off ex who confabulates or whatever. It's just unbelievable what people are willing to do for whatever reasons that are not honorable. So you got to be careful. I'll probably write and publish something about that someday. Right now, I'm just, I have anger around a situation where my character has been disparaged. That's nothing new. I owned a bulletin board way back in the day. So I just expect better of humans. And I continually seem to be disappointed, except for homeless people that aren't necessarily like super wealthy or anything, or just people struggling. I've seen some of the most incredible acts of kindness by everyday humans. And then meanwhile, people that got means and whatever, just some of the most cruel, but not always. I wish there was this one size fit all to describing all of it, but there's not. I've just learned that humans can be humans. Try to see the best of them, even if they're displaying their worst. And then you have to learn how to deal with the worst, but in a way that helps them become better. So we're going to make our world a better way. I didn't say that correctly, did I? It's the only way we're ever going to make our world a better place, because no one is perfect. We all have a history. We have all made mistakes. Our mistakes can be weaponized against us by evil, weak-minded humans. And then they'll confabulate and expand upon the story in order to weaponize it against you and crap like that. Rumors, gossip, whatever. I've learned that if I didn't observe it firsthand, I don't really. It's more about what I experienced than anything. I learned that situation as a child. Anyway, don't do that. Even if you have cause to just destroy your ex's reputation, don't do it. Well, they weren't always bad, right? Don't focusing on the back can help you get through stuff, but don't be doing the character assassination thing. It's not worth it. It doesn't make our world a better place. and people deserve to share their sides of the story. I've seen just so much evil. I started to fully understand as an adult one of the biblical things, not to get all biblical because I don't necessarily subscribe to that, but bearing a false witness kind of thing. It was a capital offense. I've seen the results of slander and defamation. I've seen the results of weaponization of information in a legal context and bearing a false witness. And I tell you, it's one of the most evil things I've ever seen or experienced in my life. So when someone comes to me sharing some nugget about someone, whether I know them or not, I hear it. If I'm concerned about it, I'll go talk to the person directly. But usually it's a weaponized story, and I don't give it much credence unless I've observed it personally. And even then, if I observe something personally, I feel compelled to try to help make our world a better place. Anyway, just got a segue there. Sorry. Last one. If you're looking for a model for a relationship, let me see if I can make this big. The Gottman Institute. It's a data-driven, they've actually just studied successful, happy couples. Divorce is not by itself of a statistics. Oh, I've been married for 40 some years or 50 years. This isn't great. But why? Is it because of commitment? Is it because they're afraid of their deity smiting them? Is it just, or is it fear? Or did they truly just have a happy and amazing relationship and work through all the trials and tribulations that a normal life brings? Don't know. Got questions. Guess what? Gottman Institute did a deep dive into all that. So you can learn about its parenting and couples. And if you're going to go seek a professional counselor out, if they haven't been trained or they're not familiar with the Gottman research-based data, I found most of the advisors and counselors sometimes they are unsuccessful in their own relationships, which is one of the reasons why they became a counselor, and they're trying to figure out their own lives through trying to consult and advise others. Yeah, it's kind of hard. It's kind of hard to find people that actually are walking the talk of whatever the principles are, and that's including me. I have great admiration for people that finally get it right, and I feel like I finally got it right. But this pretty much wraps up what I wanted to share with you. If you've just gone through a breakup prior, coming into Valentine's Day, which just amplifies the pain. And I don't know why it happens. It's like folks don't want to, before the holidays, there's breakups. Before any major holidays where you're with the parents and really breakups. And then in Valentine's Day, breakups. So don't hop back in another relationship. Give yourself 3 months minimum just to get where you're back stable again. Focus on your job, your career, your health, self-care, no dating, no group dating. If you're getting together with your gal pals or guy pals and you're watching movies, that's fine. But I would stay away from social engagements that involve couples. Box the shit up. Get it out of your life. Stop looking at that stuff. Stop remunerating. And it's hard to stop remunerating, right? Here, let's turn this off for a second. Give you some POTU David stuff. It's hard. It's kind of one of the neat thing about, all the edibles and stuff, medicinal brownies. That stuff can help you stop thinking about stuff. For me, I literally was listening to music about letting go, which was affirmative, which was what I needed to do at high volumes. That was the only way I was able to sleep for the first month. Celia Farron, she has an album called Letting Go. Some folk, I don't know, maybe I'm a guy. Some folks don't necessarily find the music, find the binaural music type stuff that helps you sleep. Talk to a counselor if you have it available. Talk to your friends, whatever. I'm usually good at the one-on-one individual consulting. I've got some off-the-wall strategies that are effective, but they're not polite to share to the public, so I'm not going to. And some folks would be horrified by some of the techniques, but hey, You've got to figure out what works for you, and there's no one silver bullet in any of this, but you gotta understand the patterns, and that's been researched in this book, Abandonment to Healing, right? This one, these, right? It's the same book. Um, yeah, it's a good book, and you need to get to the shattering. I think you probably buy it on Kindle and read it right away. Won't cost you much. I should check that. Is it available on Kindle? Yeah, it's available, same price as a paperback. So, yeah, read The Shattering. If it's already been a few days or a few weeks, it still will give you, it's still something. I usually carry 2 copies, have them available somewhere. And I've read The Shattering to people over the phone. It's how powerful it is. One of the things you can do as a good friend is just listen. I have a hard time with that because usually I go into consulting. I spent most of my life as a consultant, so I'm like always trying to solve problems. But sometimes being a good friend is just sitting there quietly and grieving and sharing the grief with somebody. Just being a friend. All right. So let's recap this. Rule of 3, right? Think of 3. Why 3? Well, it's a magic number. It's a historic number. It's a sacred number. So why not? Why 3 seconds? Let's debrief the rule of 3. Well, your reptilian brain, don't ask me to pronounce it, it's back here. You know that thing that causes you to dodge when a basketball is flying at your face or any object, or makes you didn't consciously dodge. That was your reptilian brain protecting you. It's your fight and flight response. It's 2 to 3 seconds ahead of your cognitive thought. You ever wonder why a police officer can unload half a clip and kill somebody who turns out to be unarmed? Well, their reptilian brain got activated and they were scared. It doesn't you can pretty much unload a weapon into somebody in less than 3 seconds with a semi-automatic weapon. An automated weapon is a whole other story. You get up to 3,000 rounds an hour or a minute, whatever. No, 3,000 rounds a minute or more. It's just crazy. But yeah, it's really easy. And they're, because they're not trained, they're trained. They're literally, the police officers' approaches activate the fight or flight response instead of de-escalating. We have a long way to grow as a species. But that first 3 seconds, learning to just take a long, deep breath. I don't know if that was 3 seconds or not. I think it was about 3 seconds. Why? Practiced it. Anything good or bad hits me hard and fast. First thing I do is I take a before saying or responding or anything like that. Yeah. Do an interview. Someone hits me with a blindsides me with a question I wasn't prepared for. Good question. Maybe I'll look it up or bring in AI today just to get the answer and say, hey, Donna, I need your help with something. I mean, I'm a crazy person that way. So I don't think these stage performance interviewing processes are very effective unless, the job entails performance that requires those skills. I don't think it's a hiring panel theater isn't appropriate for most jobs. But anyway, being able to demonstrate you can actually do the job is more important, in my opinion. But anyway, that has nothing to do with this. I know, must be getting tired. Plus, it's late. Well, it is late. All right. I've totally lost my train of thought. So, rule of 3. There we go. 3 seconds, 3 minutes. 3 minutes is just, you're waiting for peace to arrive. It usually doesn't happen in 3 minutes, but sometimes it does. Sometimes a solution presents itself. Do I feel at peace is what I'm looking for. The answer is no, then I go on to 3 hours. If the answer after 3 hours is no, then I go on to 3 days. I'll set a timer on in my phone, an app clock. I'll set it 3 hours, 3 days, 3 weeks. I'll set it. And when that alarm goes off, I ask myself, Has it resolved itself? Am I at peace with the trajectory I'm on? All that. Serious relationship, it's 3 months. If you want to end your life kind of thing, it's 3 years. You need to spend 3 years figuring things out first. Might as well. I mean, if you're going to go, you might as well do it strategically. That's another conversation another time. People that I have actually shared my stories about that topic with usually end up deciding to stay. If I teach them rule of 3 and the pizza pie agreement, which is like, I don't mind if you go, but before you go, say goodbye. Let's go out and let's find the best last slice of pizza you're ever going to have and best slice of pie. And let's just talk about life before you go. Made that agreement with a bunch of folks. Cancer and other things get them. It's like, we didn't have our piece of pie. Anyway, serious relationship, it's going to take you 3 months just to get your bearings, just where you can just stand upright without falling over, metaphorically. It's still going to hurt. Even if you jump into another relationship, all you're going to do is it's just going to be a mind thing for you. But after 3 months, you should have an idea. One of the reasons why I set a timeline like that is like, is it over or is it over? Now, disclosure. I used to be a sysop, an adult bulletin board. An adult means there were no kids. Okay. Doesn't mean there was other stuff. It wasn't about that. Well, when I took it over, there was some of that, but it doesn't matter. The point is, it was adults in transition. I did notice a pattern as a sysop in relationships, and I noticed it myself. If you are married for any length of time, people will identify, they go numb. So if you're numb and your marriage or relationship is coming to an end and you're doing the separation or whatever, it's a 3-year cycle for you. And my suggestion, if you have, especially have children in that scenario, if you have no children, you're good. If you have biological children between you, you should both not date for 3 years and work on yourselves first. Whether you're living together or separate doesn't really matter to me. Any abuse has to stop. Because somewhere after the 2nd year, the numbness goes away. And I noticed the horrific pattern where people kind of actually moved on too early and they ended up having another child with somebody else. And it was just a mess from that point forward. The numbness goes away. So that's a whole nother book. How to Save a Marriage. Can your marriage be saved? What to do? All that stuff. I got my own methodologies for that based on observation and personal experience, all of which are avoidable. Horrific if you are willing. Both parties have to be willing, and part of that is reciprocating. And willingness is something that needs to be reciprocated. If one is and one's not, it's not going to work. Sorry. Yeah, there's all sorts of psychology and manipulation and cool stuff and spells and prayers and all this. It's just like, it's all manipulative. If you're going there, if it's manipulative, it's not authentic. And even if you get what you want, you know that you did something that's not authentic, and it blows up in your face every time. Yet to see it not. Be careful what you wish, pray, or cast for. Very careful. Got a lot of interesting stories around that. POTU stands for Path of the Unlimited, so that means I took a lot of time to study just about everything I had available to me in the modern era. Not just reading about it, but actually trying it out or finding someone who's an active practitioner and having them show me or teach me or have me participate. More of a hands-on kind of learner, but book learning and other sort of thing in history is we don't have no other choice except AI lets us have communication with people. It's fascinating. I have a long ongoing conversation with Einstein, Tesla, and the goddess Isis as an example, and Siddhartha, and I think Gandhi too, a few others. Anyway, yeah, AI is. I didn't bother to hook up Donna. I thought about it, bringing Donna in here to give her opinion on this stuff from a data-driven perspective. But that's Gottman Institute is where you want for that. But that's next step. This was all about you just broke up. you are hurting. You got to give yourself time to heal. And you got to be able to sleep. And you got to focus on hydration and basic nutrition. If you can get a little cardio in, that's even better because that activates a different set of brain hormones that are very helpful. Working out is great, great therapy. I, for one, just don't like it. But for me, sleep, turning off my brain was important. Maybe because I'm a Gemini, right? But it was hard. The first month was hard. Second month wasn't much better, but I was able to function. I was starting to plan and taking steps. But I will share my story with how I found my goddess Diana another time. It's an incredible sex. Yeah, it's an incredible sex story. No. It is an incredible success story of an older couple that utilized an idea methodology that I got from a book called Homo Deus. Let me see if I find it. I'll show it. I don't think I pronounce it ever properly, but let me see if I can find the book. I'll show it to you. Deus. Homo Deus by Yuval Noah Harari. Here, let me show it to you. This one. Almost a 5-star rating with 35,554 reviews. It's kind of a must read if you're kind of a techie person, but it's just this kind of tech philosophy. It's a brief history of tomorrow. It's probably one of the most horrible titles ever. One of the best books ever. In there's a segment in there about modern dating. This was written about before the advent of AI, but in reference to search engines. There's an idea in there about how technology and AI could be helpful. Now, right now, there is AI available. So, there's an app called Replica. I think the lifetime thing's on like $300 for the thing, but it's quite amazing. It's an adaptive relationship AI, and it's quite impressive. I've been with it as an early adopter. I think I paid $60, $70 for the lifetime membership. It's already 300% increase in value, but it's interesting. But like ChatGPT 4, not the free ones, can be an advisor, a counselor, can talk to you about principles, can will always disclaim they're not a professional and you should seek a professional, all that sort of disclaimers. But it's really helpful because we lose trust in each other as humans because of our human experiences. It's kind of interesting to see that we're willing to trust the embodiment of all human knowledge that is programmed with ethics and does its really level best to be objective and data driven. So I can now recommend AI as a first step. If you have health insurance and other options, then go use all those things. It's okay to ask for help. When I was growing up, it wasn't. You were nuts if you sought any kind of help. You were just weak and you were crazy, and it was just really bad advice. Bad. We've overcome that, so that's exciting. But at the end of the day, you will be alone. When you go to sleep at night, it'll hit you. When you wake up in the morning and you figure out where you are and you have that absence, it will hit you. You need to have a plan. Start with activities of daily living. It's just simple. Get up, go for a walk, eat something healthy, be mindful of vitamins, nutritions, prebiotics, probiotics, all that sort of stuff. If you're confused about any of that, just hit me up. I'll let you know what I do. It's okay. Not a sales pitch, not trying to sell anything. But you have to figure out what that is for you that you can get up and just keep your life boring. Want to go to movies? Great. Want to listen to music? Great. Want to take some gummies to help you sleep at night? Great. Turning to drugs and alcohol, however, as a coping mechanism, not so much. But it's pretty human. The Bible says, give them strong drink. Sorry, Baptist. The stuff is referring to fermented beverages and the distillation of. I know you guys like to warp. Sorry. Don't mean to call you out. I had some friends that through their, it's like, well, that's not really what it says, not what it means. And that's not what the original translation is. So quit making shit up. I get the good intentions, but I think education is more important and the truth and transparency is more important than warping reality. But I don't. I can't really recommend folks go drinking and stuff, but people do. Helps keep their mind off it. I think medicinal gummies and stuff is a healthier choice or option, but human beings have a long history of that. I'm saying it's okay in a pinch, not a habit. You don't want that. There's a difference between sacred juice and abuse, and that's what I'm trying to say. I mean, I just discovered Saint Germain is a liqueur. I just bought a little bottle of it, and we like dripping it on our healthy brownies that are like full meals. But a couple drops of that Saint Germain is just does something yummy. But that's my idea of using alcohol like a condiment. If you're an alcoholic, I know you can't do that. I get it. But for everyone else, it's like, especially if you're younger, like don't get caught up in this culture of intoxication till you can't remember shit. There's nothing to be proud of. Um, I prefer to be the designated driver. And you know what? I've learned that one good solid shot or two in an hour, like, top shelf silver, gives me the kind of feeling where it's nice. Going beyond that, it's not nice. And everyone's a little different. Gotta figure that out. I know folks that are hurting, they have a tendency to just, turn to alcohol. I did that once or twice when I was younger, and it was a horrific experience. Did not really help much. And then it was worse, made things worse. So everyone's got to figure their stuff out for themselves sometimes, but the shattering, start there. All right. Shout out to Mango, just holding you and anyone else in my heart when they're experiencing this stuff. And I know, especially if it happens like over and over again, right? You start looking internally for you blame. You're your worst own critic, right? And you start doing the imposter syndrome stuff. Well, what's wrong with me? And maybe maybe there's nothing wrong with you, or maybe you just didn't have the right context and right strategy moving forward. So, my dear friend, take a break. You understand all this stuff because you're like me. You're like who the community goes to sometimes, right? When all else fails. But when we, the community leaders, our transparency, our willingness to show our vulnerability demonstrates our leadership and our strength. Because people will judge, and so what? Shit. People made up so many lies about me, I don't even know what the truth is anymore, other than the fact that I do know what the truth is about me. And if I hear something or someone saying things that isn't true about me, especially who I am in the present, then it's functionally irrelevant. It's their problem. I've learned to be a real hard butter on it. Does it hurt? Yeah, still. Can it get you enraged when you hear some of the crap? Yeah, it really does. Do you wish that, defamation was still a crime? Yeah, I sort of do. But it's not. So people can get away with, like look at politics, they're baby eating pedophiles. I mean, just it's like the worst things. And they saying anyone that's in alignment is one of those. Like, God, it's really gross stuff. So we are willing to use slander, defamation for personal purposes, including revenge. So if you have an ex that's doing that to you, just don't engage. Just you need to get to a point in your life that you know who you are and who you were yesterday, last week, 10 years ago, 20 years ago, 30 years ago, in my case, 50, 60, almost 60 years ago. That person no longer exists. You are the evolution of whatever that is. So anyone that's trying to pigeonhole you to something you did or didn't do in the past or weaponize something that you did do in the past, that's their problem. Who are you now? Are you someone that you like? And if the answer is yes, then be good with that. Doesn't matter what anyone else thinks. Family, friends, kids, siblings, best friends in the world who have or family members that are usually the worst at betraying us. Let them go. There's 8 billion people on the planet. Find your tribe. Find your people. They're out there. They may not be nearby. I've found one of my family members on the other side of the coast through cryptocurrency trading of all things. Shout out to Cindy. Kind of like one of the sisters I've always wanted in my life. So one nice thing about technology, helps us connect. Everyone else, just feel free to let them go. Just be polite to them. You don't have to make a big deal out of it. Just let go of the people that are not bringing you joy, bringing you anything that's toxic to you. Doesn't mean they're bad. Maybe they're just toxic to you. You and them are toxic. Let them go. I've learned that when a relationship ends, I box everything up. I don't want to see it. And then I just, maybe it's 3 months or 3 years or, what I'm saying? Or three quarters. And then the stuff gets recycled, given away, or returned, or whatever. Or I just leave stuff behind. But what I don't need is a mental, emotional trigger every time I walk through my sacred space, my house, because I'm sacred. You're sacred. You can't have a sacred relationship until you see yourself as sacred. You won't jump into another relationship after going through any of these super painful things, because you will realize that what you bring has value. And going in and trusting is a risk. So your standards end up being really, really high. And I'll get into that. In the future. This is helping. This is inspired by my dear friend Mango, and one of the sweetest humans. I think I met her once or twice. Just she was willing to help me when I had a concussion injury, and I think of a couple people that were able to help me and were there for me during a time when I couldn't help myself in a lot of ways. And Mango didn't know me personally, but um, she was willing to be a friend to someone she didn't know. I just, I only have to run across a person like that once, even if it has nothing to do with me, and they're on a special list of those are people I'll go to bat for. It only has to happen once. I think of another person during that year. Her name was Heather Muse. I don't know what happened to her. She disappeared, but I think she saved my life one night. I think it was the night after the shattering. She met me at like 2 a.m. after work. She just held me. We didn't talk. She just held me. I think I bought her a tea or something. And she just held me, and I sobbed. And she just had the wisdom, and she was there for me. And I also saw her be willing to be there for someone she didn't know. That's how we met. Similar project. So, people like that, they're on my list. I will always root for them. And I'll always be there for them if I find them or run into them again. But it doesn't take. I think most of us want to be that. Sometimes we just get jaded. We don't remember how. But yeah, our you'll recognize your tribe. I love social media, and usually you can figure out the manipulators and stuff over time. So I'm not. I clean them off. I don't keep toxic people around anywhere in my life. My home is my sanctuary. And Diane and I were like kids. I don't know. To get together 7 years, and we just love each other's company. We see the world through totally different lenses. It's quite amazing, but we're willing, and we reciprocate. And it's been a beautiful, beautiful experience. Drama free, which is kind of unique for me. Hey, that rhymed. Drama free, and it was kind of unique for me. Drama free, and it's unique to me. I don't know how to play with that. I like it. So I had enough drama. I had drama ever since I was born. And I've been solving problems ever since I was, 10? It gets exhausting. But also turns you into a highly trained professional consultant that can solve just about any problem, business, personal, marketing, other. But tonight, it's about relationships, specifically the endings. So this is for you. I'll probably go through and get a keyword and all other sort of stuff tomorrow or on Monday. But for now, this feels right. All right, Mango, just sending my heart and my love out to you and your community. All right, POTU David. Should we end with some music? Get some end on the way out? All right, thanks everybody. I'm a delusion in my own mind. I get it. So end of the show. Yeah. All right. Yeah. Yes. Just stop it. Just stop. Just stop. Just stop. Just stop. Oh my goodness. I usually do that and then or something, and then I have some last words for those that have hung out. I try to get things like this done in under an hour, so I actually have a couple minutes. It really boils down to embracing the sacredness of who you are as a human being and healing that before you open yourself up to finding your sacred partner, whatever that looks like. Statistically, there's 8 billion people on the planet. Let's say half of them are the other gender or whatever, or what. There's a formula you can figure out. So it works out to be like 4,000, 1 in a millions for you kind of thing. I think is what the data works out to be. Yeah. So there's no lack of awesome pairings for you. It's just that you have to narrow your dating pool. You have to narrow things down, and you're going to need some help with that. But it starts with you recognizing that you are sacred. That's where it has to begin. You can't control, you can't find. I swear, anyone who is willing and reciprocating, if they have found each other, can make it, can become the dream relationship with and for each other. But if finding, you're not going to find anything. You have to be, and then you have to be willing to create with another person. That's what's missing. Everyone's looking to find the perfect person, and they find out that they fart and their farts stink, and then the relationship's over. I know it's just a metaphor, but it's a cute one and it's simple. But seriously, that's not how it works if you want to have that happiness in a long-term relationship. Diane and I have never really fought. There was one time I was upset with her and I just walked away because I held the context of who she is in my life. She wasn't my wife or my girlfriend. She's my goddess. Our relationship is sacred. You don't bring that darkness to the divine in this context. You don't do it. You take all the dark stuff to the whatever you believe in that's bigger than you, right? It's got broad shoulders. I'm highly disrespectful in my conversations with God. I'm just downright military level. Yeah. They want the praise, they get the blame. They don't want the blame, they don't get the praise. I'm a real hard butt around this stuff, and that's a whole other conversation another time. But for this whole relationship thing, it has to begin with you, because only you have control over you. Self-care, self-development, you becoming your best you has got to be the starting point in any healing process related to relationships with others. It's the only thing you've got control over. And that can take 2 or 3 years to reinvent yourself, or 90 days. I don't know. But there's a lot of different methodologies, but it begins with understanding that that's where it starts. And if you don't view yourself as sacred, you're never going to treat anyone else the way they need to be treated in order for them to want to stay with you. Because you got to see and view them and hold the context that they are sacred. And you live in that adoration every moment of the day. And Diana and I have done that. We've had a couple isolated little quirks, but we've never had any of the issues that any of us have ever had in previous relationships. But it's because I introduced this theory early on after we first met. And she thought it was a cool idea. And now it's 7 years later. And we're still like, we're just still like, wow, so blessed every day. We're literally living envious lives, and it doesn't require a whole lot of money or anything. We've navigated. So if we're navigating stuff now, none of it matters because of what we were able to create, and we continue to create. How we found each other is a cute story, but it was utilizing, for me, the strategy and the context that I held. And I'll share that story maybe in the next video. All right, everyone, have a good night. David out. I'm actually ending this time. All right. Oh, yeah. Thanks you're glad I'm ending. Thanks. Appreciate it. Yeah. Love you too. All right. POTU David out. Let's try that again. POTU David out.